Ah, fools. They thought no one would know. They thought the shadows they crawled in would keep their sins hidden forever. Every whisper they traded in back rooms, every deal struck with poison dripping from their tongues, every scheme they thought was sealed in darkness, they believed it would die with them. But nothing dies unseen. There's a higher eye, one that misses nothing, one that doesn't blink when you're in pain, one that records every betrayal, every trap, every dagger they pressed to your back. And that eye? It just turned its full attention to them. You've been wondering when it would happen, when the quiet patience you've been forced to carry would finally mean something. You've been bleeding through years of deceit, swallowing truths that could burn cities, waiting for the right moment. And now, the moment isn't just coming, it's here. The hidden things are surfacing. The very same people who once stood tall, confident in their invisible crimes, are now trembling under the weight of exposure. They never thought the light would reach them. They thought God was too far away to care. They were wrong, because what's unfolding isn't chance. It's not rumor, it's not luck, it's judgment. A slow, deliberate unraveling of their carefully stitched lies. You can see it in their eyes now, that flicker of panic, the kind that only comes when someone realizes the walls aren't closing in metaphorically. They're closing in literally. The very evidence they swore didn't exist is stacking against them like bricks sealing their own cell. And you're not just a bystander in this story. You are the reason it's happening. Not because you went out looking for revenge. No, that would have been too small for what's about to unfold. This is bigger than you. This is cosmic balance, tipping back into place. You endured. You survived their plans. You refused to let their poison take root in your soul. And by doing so, you placed yourself in alignment with something far more powerful than any courtroom or any jury. They told themselves the same lie over and over. We're untouchable. And maybe for a time, they were. They bribed, they coerced, they intimidated, they hid behind power and titles and positions that looked unshakable. But power without truth is just a mask, and masks eventually slip. One by one, theirs are falling. And as they fall, so do their allies, their enablers, the ones who swore loyalty to corruption. Because when God decides enough is enough, He doesn't just pluck out the guilty. He exposes the entire nest. The first signs are already here. The cracks in their confidence, the sudden changes in their tone when your name comes up. The calls they make late at night, trying to figure out how much is known, how much has been leaked, how much longer they have before the knock on the door. It's funny, they spent so long plotting in whispers, and now they're the ones whispering in fear. You can almost hear it in the air, their dread. You were once the hunted. They circled you, cornered you, laughed at the idea that you could ever rise again. They underestimated how deep your roots go. They thought their lies could bury you, not realizing that while they were busy digging your grave, they were also digging their own. And now, every shovel of dirt they threw at you is about to come crashing back on them. This is the thing about hidden crimes. They rot from the inside out. What they did has been eating away at them for years, even if they won't admit it. And when the rot finally breaks through the surface, there's no way to hide it. People start talking, records start surfacing, witnesses start stepping forward. Not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because the weight of truth becomes unbearable to hold in. They're about to learn what it feels like to have the tables flipped, to walk into a room and feel every eye knowing, every voice ready to speak against them. To realize the same world they manipulated is now watching them fall. Their arrogance will be replaced with desperation. Their smirks will be replaced with clenched jaws. And their so-called friends, they'll scatter like dust. No one wants to stand next to a sinking ship. You remember every moment they thought you were powerless. You remember the way they smiled when they thought they had won. You remember the way they erased your voice from the conversation. And now, one by one, those memories are being overwritten, replaced with the image of them standing in front of the very judgment they mocked. You can almost see it. The flashing cameras, the headlines, the handcuffs. Make no mistake, this isn't about petty satisfaction. This isn't about you seeking revenge with your own hands. This is about justice moving in a way no one can stop. You're not orchestrating it. You're watching it unfold, knowing full well it was written the moment they touched what was sacred to you. God doesn't forget. He doesn't misplace evidence. And when he moves, he doesn't miss. And the beautiful, terrifying thing, they don't even know how much has already been set in motion. They think they still have time. They think their secrets are still safe. They think the right phone call or the right threat will make this all disappear. But the clock they're racing against is not in their control. And each second that passes, the walls get closer. The irony is sharp. The very traps they set for you are the ones snapping shut on them. The same lies they used to discredit you are now being used against them. The same tactics they used to keep you silent are now working to keep them from escaping. You don't even have to lift a finger. All you have to do is keep breathing, keep standing, and watch the inevitable happen. They'll try to twist the narrative. They'll claim they're victims. They'll cry persecution. But the evidence will speak louder than their tears. The witnesses will speak louder than their excuses. And the truth. The truth will burn through every layer of deceit they wrapped themselves in. They can't argue with the light. They can't bribe it. They can't run from it. Soon, you won't just hear whispers about their downfall. You'll see it. The courtrooms, the verdicts, the sentences. You'll watch them walk into buildings with cameras flashing and walk out with their freedom stripped. And in that moment, the weight you've been carrying will finally shift. Not because you needed them to suffer, but because the world will finally see what you've known all along. This is the turning point, the moment where you stop being defined by what they did to you and start being defined by how you endured it. The day is coming when you will look back and realize that everything they thought would destroy you only positioned you for this exact victory. And as they're led away, they'll have one question burning in their minds. How did it all come to this? How did the lies, the plots, the perfectly crafted illusions collapse so completely? They'll never want to admit the answer, but you'll know. You've always known. Because God saw everything. And now, the walls that once shielded them are collapsing faster than they can patch the cracks. Every false ally they leaned on is stepping away. Every door they thought would open for them is slamming shut. It's not random. It's a chain reaction. One truth leads to another. One exposure triggers the next. And the ones they thought would protect them are suddenly too busy protecting themselves. They're not just losing power, they're losing the illusion of it. You watch it happen with a kind of stillness in your chest. Not calm, no, it's something sharper. It's recognition. This is the same unraveling they tried to force on you. The same isolation they plotted for you is now consuming them. They are discovering, painfully, That once the tide turns, you can't bargain with it. You can't bribe a wave to stop rising. And this is more than a wave. This is the flood of every hidden thing they swore would never see daylight. People are talking. People who once swore they'd take their secrets to the grave. The fear is too thick now. Witnesses they never imagined would speak are stepping into the open, not out of courage, but because they know the truth is safer to tell than to hide. That's when you realize this isn't just exposure. It's a dismantling. Every move they made in the shadows is now being dragged, piece by piece, into the open air. And you can see it in their posture. Once they walked into rooms like they owned the air itself. Now, their shoulders dip, their eyes dart. They measure their words like every syllable could be the one to break them. That's because it could. When you've built your entire life on deception, truth becomes a loaded weapon aimed at your chest. There's a peculiar thing that happens when someone who's been untouchable finally feels the ground shift under their feet. They scramble. They reach for old tricks. They call in favors. They send messages in the dark. They try to stitch together what's already too far gone. And every time they try, they only make it worse. It's like watching someone claw at a wall as it crumbles in their hands. Desperation doesn't fix the cracks. It widens them. Behind closed doors, the panic is thick. You know it because you've lived it from the other side. The hushed arguments, the late-night meetings, the frenzied phone calls to make this go away. They're learning now that the one thing you can't make disappear is truth. They can threaten, they can manipulate, they can fabricate, but the evidence doesn't care. And this time, the evidence has momentum. It's moving too fast for them to control. They're running out of time. That's not a metaphor. That's the literal reality they face. There are dates circled on calendars that they're pretending not to see. Hearings, testimonies, summons. Every one of them is a step closer to the point where no amount of lies will save them. You can almost feel it in the air, the inevitability. You're not celebrating. You're not throwing your hands up in victory. No, you're simply watching justice do what it was always going to do. The same God who saw what they did in the dark is the same God who's pulling the curtain back now. This isn't about you getting even. This is about balance being restored in a way that can't be undone. And it's not just their present collapsing. It's their past coming back to collect. People are digging. Old incidents are resurfacing. Things they thought were forgotten are being linked to the crimes they're facing now. It's as if every wrong they committed is lining up in a single file, waiting its turn to be counted. That's the part that really rattles them. They thought they could contain this. They thought this was just one problem to manage. But they're realizing it's all connected, and the net is too wide to escape. Their faces are changing. The arrogance is gone, replaced with a tightness in the jaw, a permanent crease in the forehead, a stiffness in the eyes that betrays sleepless nights. They wear their fear now, even in public. They can't hide it. That's the thing about guilt. It seeps through no matter how well you dress it up. And the whispers around them are getting louder. People are making space between themselves and the accused. Former allies are giving short-clipped answers when asked about them. Invitations are drying up. Their names are becoming toxic in conversation. This isn't just legal trouble. This is social exile. And they're feeling it in ways they never imagined. You remember when they thought you were finished. You remember the way they acted like you didn't exist, like your truth didn't matter. Now they're living in that same shadow. Only difference? Yours wasn't built on lies. Theirs is collapsing under the weight of them, and there's no rebuilding when the foundation itself is rotten. They'll try one last play. They always do. A smear campaign, a counter-accusation, a plea to sympathy. But it will ring hollow. Too much has already been revealed. Too many have already seen behind the curtain. And once people see the truth, they don't forget it. The image they worked so hard to protect is gone, and all that's left is the raw, undeniable reality of what they've done. What's coming next isn't a warning. It's a sentence. The process is already in motion. Investigations are deepening. Prosecutors are sharpening their cases. The walls aren't just closing in, they're locking. You know it, they know it. And the ones who cheered them on, they're suddenly nowhere to be found. Here's the part they'll never understand. They thought they were fighting you. They thought this was about silencing one voice, crushing one life. But they weren't just up against you. They were up against the truth itself. And the truth is undefeated. You can bury it, you can delay it, but you can't kill it. And once it rises, it doesn't just speak, it roars. They're living in that roar now. Every conversation they have is shadowed by it. Every interaction is tinged with suspicion. Even their own reflections betray them, because they see what's coming in their own eyes. It's not paranoia if it's real, and for them, it's very real. Soon, the day will come. The one they've been pretending won't arrive. You'll see them standing in places they swore they'd never be, in front of judges, in front of cameras, in front of a public that's no longer fooled. You'll see them in uniforms they never imagined wearing, and you'll know, deep in your bones, that this is exactly where their path was always going to end. And when the verdicts are read, when the gavel falls, when the last shred of their denial is stripped away, there will be no one left to blame, no shadows left to hide in, no lies left to cling to, just them, the truth, and the weight of everything they did. This isn't your doing, and that's the point. If it were, they'd dismiss it as revenge. But it's not. This is God's doing. The same God who saw you in your lowest place, who heard every cry they mocked, who counted every tear they caused, is the same God delivering them to this moment. They can call it coincidence. They can call it misfortune. But you know better, because God saw everything. And when he decides to act, there's no appeal, no delay, no escape. And now, they're about to learn what it feels like when the hand they thought would never touch them finally closes around their world. It begins quietly. No loud warning, no dramatic build-up. Just a sudden shift in the air around them, a shift they can't name, but can feel deep in their bones. They go through the motions of their morning, but nothing feels right. The coffee doesn't taste the same. The mirror doesn't lie as easily. Every vibration of their phone makes their pulse quicken, even though they'll never admit why. Something in them knows their days of walking untouched are over. And somewhere in that knowing, there's a silent panic they try to swallow down, but it clings to them like smoke that refuses to clear. Then it happens. The knock on the door they always thought was for someone else. Firm, unmistakable. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. They try to stand tall, to play the role they've rehearsed all their lives. But when the door opens, and they see the eyes of those who've come for them, the weight of reality presses in. This isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a bluff. The time they thought they could outrun has caught them, and it's not letting go. Cold metal replaces the illusion of control. Hands that once signed documents, counted stolen money, or wrote lies now feel the bite of steel around their wrists. The walk outside is not triumphant, but humiliating. The cameras are there, the witnesses are there. The faces of people who once flattered them now look on with quiet satisfaction. And for the first time, they're not the ones commanding the room. They are the spectacle. The ride in the back of that vehicle feels longer than any journey they've taken. The city they once owned in whispers and shadows moves outside the window, indifferent to their downfall. They try to think of a way out, some last-minute deal, some clever spin, but this isn't like before. This is final, and every street they pass seems to close a chapter they'll never reopen. When the doors open, the smell of the place greets them before the sight does. It's not the scent of fear they expected, it's the scent of reality. Unforgiving, heavy. The kind that clings to the skin and lingers in the mind. They're let inside, where the echo of footsteps feels like a countdown. The air is colder here, not because of the temperature, but because of what it represents. A place where power shifts hands, and the ones who thought they were untouchable realize they've been standing on borrowed time. The room they're placed in is bare, yet it feels heavier than the grandest office they've ever sat in. Here, their titles mean nothing. Their wealth can't speak for them. The walls don't bend to charm or manipulation. The clock on the wall ticks the same for them as it does for everyone else who's been brought here. And for the first time, they see themselves not as the orchestrator of events, but as the subject of them. Across the table, the questions begin. They've built careers on controlling conversations, but here, control is not theirs to hold. Every word they say is weighed, measured, recorded. They try to play the game they've always played, deny, deflect, distract. But the evidence laid out in front of them is not theory or rumor. It's precise, undeniable. Documents, recordings, testimonies. Each piece is a nail sealing a door that will never open for them again. The people questioning them are not moved by their usual tactics. There's no laughter to soften the blow, no friendly handshake to seal a hidden deal. Just eyes that see them exactly as they are, not as they've tried to appear. And each moment in that chair chips away at the image they've spent years building. The cracks in their voice aren't from emotion. They're from the weight of realizing the script is no longer theirs to write. Meanwhile, outside those walls, the world begins to know. News spreads fast. Headlines flash. Names trend for reasons they never wanted. The same networks that once praised them now dissect every detail of their downfall. People they thought would shield them stay silent, unwilling to be dragged down alongside them. And somewhere, far from the noise, those they've wronged are watching. Not with anger now, but with the quiet satisfaction of knowing justice has finally moved. Back inside, the hours feel like days. The same questions, the same reminders of what's been uncovered. They try to imagine this is temporary, that they'll walk out of here and find some way to spin it. But deep down, they know this is not the start of a negotiation. It's the beginning of the end. And the most haunting part is that the end didn't come from some unstoppable rival or unforeseen disaster. It came because every step, every choice, every lie was seen. God saw everything. And when God moves, there's no court they can appeal to that outranks him, no influence that can rewrite what has already been decided. The secrets they buried were never truly hidden. Every whisper, every shadow deal, every betrayal was recorded in a place no one can tamper with. They thought they could outrun consequences by outsmarting people. But they forgot that the one they could never deceive was watching from the start. As the hours pass, the weight grows. It's not just the fear of prison. It's the dawning understanding that their name will never again be spoken the way it once was. Their legacy is no longer what they built, but what they destroyed. The rooms they once commanded will remember them not as leaders, but as warnings, and those who once stood in their shadow will now stand in the light they can never touch again. When they're finally led away, the halls echo differently, not with their footsteps leading others, but with the sound of a life being walked out in reverse, every illusion stripped, every mask removed. The path ahead is not one of choice, but of consequence. And as they step into the place where days are measured not by opportunity, but by confinement, the reality settles in fully. There is no going back. The cell door closes. The sound is sharp, final. It doesn't slam with anger. It seals with certainty. Inside, the air is still. The walls are plain. There's no audience, no stage, no escape plan. Just time. Time to remember every act that brought them here. Time to replay the moments they laughed at warnings, ignored chances to turn back, mocked those who spoke truth. And in that time, the truth becomes impossible to avoid. They were seen. From the beginning they were seen. And the same God who watched them build their empire also watched them use it to harm. The same God who gave them chances to change also measured the moments they refused. And when the weight of it all reached its appointed time, he moved, not late, not early, but exactly when the scales demanded it. And now, as they sit in the place they swore they'd never be, they realize that the power they thought they had was never theirs to keep. That the walls they built to hide their deeds couldn't keep out the one who needed no permission to tear them down. And that, in the end, there's no greater sentence than to know you had every chance to walk right and chose instead to walk blind into the very judgment you thought you'd never face. Because God saw everything, and when he decides to act, there's no appeal, no delay, no escape.